Okay, today we're looking at something very special. This is Franklin's new paddle called the C45, and it's one of my favorite paddles to come out this year. And I'll be getting into all the nitty gritty in a bit. But first, I wanted to let you know Franklin is letting me give one of these babies away for free. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video to see how to enter. But if you want to get a head start, you can go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, if you really want to stay on top of all the latest when it comes to pickleball gear news and updates, including some of the stranger stuff a lot of other reviewers aren't talking about, you should definitely check out and subscribe to my brand new podcast, Is This a Pickleball Podcast with Matthew K. Pickleball. And sometimes the cutest pug in the world swings by, so for no other reason to get some pug love, you should definitely check it out. And the last time Buffy joined, she tried to eat the microphone, so there's some great ASMR potential for folks listening in their cars. You can catch all the latest episodes here on YouTube, as well as on all the major podcast platforms. And now, let's talk C45. This is a 14mm paddle with next-gen construction, and we'll go into detail on that in a bit. It's a hybrid shape with a Toray T700 raw carbon fiber face. However, Franklin's doing something interesting with their layup, which we'll also discuss. It's 16.3 by 7.6 inches with a 5.7 inch handle, so plenty of room for two-handed backhands, and its grip has a 4.3 inch circumference. The average weight is pretty light, coming in at 7.6 to 7.9 ounces, and it has an advertised swing weight of 104 and an advertised twist weight of 5.6. And Franklin also offers a 1-year manufacturing defects warranty, and after promo code MatthewK knocks 10% off the sticker price, this paddle is a little over $200. And I should also mention the C45 is dual certified with both USAP and UPAA approvals. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how this paddle is designed and what that means for performance. This paddle is Gen 3 construction. And if you don't know what Gen 3 means or what a next gen paddle is, I cover this in detail in my carbon true foam video if you want to take a deep dive down the paddle nerd rabbit hole. But to summarize, I consider Gen 3 paddles to be paddles that utilize additional foam inside their cores compared to typical Gen 2 paddles, which usually only have a single ring of hard foam around the core's perimeter. And this additional foam inside Gen 3 paddles tends to result in paddles that hit harder compared to their Gen 2 counterparts. And that is definitely the case with Franklin's take on Gen 3. These things can really blast balls. Out of the box, you'll notice dramatic pop off the face with lots and lots of power behind hits with big swings. This paddle can pretty much make anyone a banger, in my opinion. However, I personally think this paddle is more than a blunt power instrument. You can still have a lot of finesse to your game with this in your hand. Franklin calls their core tech Power Flex, but it's actually got a lot of similarities to what we've seen with Yola's Gen 3 propulsion cores. Like Yola's Pro 4 paddles, Franklin opted for 2 channels of foam around the perimeter of the core, a hard foam on the very outside edge, and a softer foam closer to the polypropylene honeycomb. And then, once again, like Yola, Franklin's paddle utilizes a diving board configuration. However, unlike the Yola paddles, where you can almost feel the paddle head bending backwards as the ball strikes the paddle face, like a diving board being loaded with weight, I thought the C45 had a firmer feel when it made contact with the ball. I never got a sense there's a lot of flex going on in the paddle or that springs were being loaded. As a result, the C45, at least to me, feels as if it has less dwell than the new Yolas and less pocketing compared to the carbon true foams. Instead, the C45 has a very straightforward, firm feel as you hit. However, it's not dense or super hard like a Firefly paddle, for example, which was actually one of the first, if not the first, fully foam paddle. And while ball feel is super important, what really stood out to me with the C45 more than anything else was how it played pretty linearly, once again, to me. I could hit the ball as I would with the Gen 2 paddle with the same sort of timing to my strokes, but get some juiced up output with each hit that was very predictable for both soft and hard hits, which is not the case with a number of next-gen paddles. And I think the C45's unique feel and play characteristics is the result of a couple of things. According to Franklin, the C45 undergoes double thermoforming, and pickleball guru John Q has reported that this process entails 2 separate thermoforming stages. A first where the polypropylene sheets themselves undergo heating, and then after paddle shapes are cut from those sheets, a second stage of heating inside molds. Franklin has stated, quote, "This process helps to ensure the integrity of the paddle by enhancing the structure, not once, but twice," end quote. And they claim this makes the paddle more durable while also reducing vibration. Regarding the durability, that remains to be seen, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. However, I definitely think this design dampens vibration. While it doesn't feel exactly like an EVA paddle, this paddle has a foamy feel that is super easy on the arm. So if that's a concern of yours, it's definitely worth demoing one. But that's not the whole story with what's different about the C45. The face layup lets you get a ton of spin, making this a placement monster in my opinion. If you love controlling the ball and playing angles, this performs with the very best in that department. And it seems to be the result of the carbon fiber sheets having an unusual orientation. John Q once again broke this down into super simple terms. Basically, the C45 utilizes 3 carbon fiber sheets in its face. The 2 outside layers are oriented at 45 degrees, with the middle layer being at 0. And this orientation, 45 degrees, which is actually how the C45 got its name, is intended to soften up the face. And I absolutely think it does. I actually hope more next gen paddles and power paddles in general will look at this technique, because I think it really fixes my issue with a lot of power paddles. And that's that they often have so much pop and stiff playing faces, you can get a lot of unwanted pop-ups on short flat hits at the kitchen. But this new orientation combined with Franklin's core design seems to really help in that department, in my opinion, which I think is awesome for a paddle that has so much pop and power. To me, it sort of plays like what I had imagined a next gen J2K would have played like. While I'm a huge fan of the J2K Plus, especially at its price point, it's not the right choice for everyone. If you're someone that wants a next gen paddle with a linear feel, meaning you get the same feeling of power output per unit of input with your swing on hard shots and soft shots, then the C45 will probably fit the bill a bit better in my opinion. And if you aren't able to tell by now, I'm a huge fan of this paddle and what Franklin is doing. And I should also note that they're working on additional shapes in case you're not a hybrid lover, so definitely keep your eyes peeled. But I personally think this shape is what sets it apart from a lot of the next gen paddles out right now, and I think Yola and Carbon should take note. And before I talk durability and value, I want to highlight these overgrips from LUQI, which I've really been loving. These are their ultimate grips line, and I think they balance tackiness and cushion super well and also hold up a long time, which is one of the most important aspects of an overgrip to me. I hate putting on a fresh overgrip and then feeling like all the tack is gone after a single session. And LUQI are up there with the very best of them when it comes to longevity. Also, they have a bazillion colors as well as other options that vary in tackiness and dryness for folks that know what they really like. After promo code Matthew K, a pack of 4 of the Ultimates are a little over $7, and that's a super great value in my opinion. And then I also wanted to highlight the edge tape I'm using for the C45. Typically, I love Pickleskin's edge tape because it's the lightest and most pliable edge tape I've ever been able to find. It's easy to push the bubbles out when you're applying it, and the Pickleskin edge tape lasts for a really long time. But for the Franklin C45, I didn't want to cover up this crazy looking edge guard with this cool shimmer effect. So I wanted to find some edge protection that was transparent. I knew clear Scotch tape or packing tape would be too thin and wouldn't add much protection from scrapes. Plus, I didn't want to deal with that level of stickiness, so I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And I stumbled on a few hacks and clear edge tape suggestions, and it seems a good number of folks use vinyl wrap for cars as clear paddle edge tape. However, after reading too many reviews about the 1-inch rolls being jagged, and also not being too excited about using a hairdryer or heat gun to adhere my edge tape, I kept hunting, and I eventually stumbled onto this. This is a clear vinyl safety marking tape for dance floors, and this stuff actually works great as edge tape in my opinion. It's got a clear matte finish that you can see right through, so you don't have to sacrifice this paddle's cool look while trying to preserve it. And I really can't recommend this stuff enough. It sticks to the edge guard well, and I'm just really liking it. Also, it's dirt cheap. You can get a roll of 36 yards for about $9 on Amazon. Also, it comes in 1-inch width, which is key. And as a PSA, if you're using 3/4-inch electrical tape, just stop. That's too narrow for most pickleball paddles. You're not protecting the lip of the edge guard with tape that narrow, and that's the part of the paddle that gets damaged the most if you do an accidental dig into the ground. You've got to get properly sized edge tape like Pickleskin's or this clear vinyl tape, or purchase actual 1-inch electrical tape. Anyway, a beautiful paddle like this with a unique edge guard deserves something special in my opinion, so I wanted to share this info in case it's helpful to anyone else. I'll be sure to leave links for all the edge protection I've mentioned down in the video description. And if you have other recommendations, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to know what else is out there. And now that you know how to protect your investment, let's talk Franklin C45 value really quickly. First, $207 after promo code MatthewK is definitely up there in price. But because of how this paddle performs and the unusual tech that's going into it, I actually think it's still a pretty good value. I also appreciate that Franklin is utilizing discount codes. Compared to Yola's Pro 4 line, which doesn't utilize discount codes, the C45 is $80 less. And in my eyes, this paddle is right up there with that line when it comes to performance. However, there have been some reports concerning durability. Pickleball Studio, for example, wrecked his unit, but he also added a ton of weight. For me personally, I try to limit how much I customize paddles I'm reviewing. For the C45, I added a little bit of Bodie's new pre-cut tungsten tape, which I love by the way, at the bottom corners. And then I also built up the overgrip a bit with some overgrips and athletic pre-wrap. But that was about it. For additional reference, I do move grips some when I play, but I mostly try to stay in continental, maybe cheating ever so slightly to Eastern. And for me, this paddle with just a tad bit of customization really fit my playstyle. Someone that doesn't do a whole lot of hard-hitting drives and moves up to the kitchen for patient dinking rather than instigating firefights. And this paddle is perfect for that. And then when you see your opponent error and pop up, this paddle has everything you need to punish them. But don't let me mislead you. If you want to hit hard and hang at the baseline, this paddle can definitely do that. However, if you're a player that has big hard-hitting swings all the time and wants to play full throttle every single point, you might be looking at adding some more weight than I did for some extra dwell. That's what Pickleball Studio did, but ultimately the paddle got too heavy and hard-hitting and broke down on him. At least that's what I think happened. And to me, I actually wasn't thinking that was really a knock against this paddle, because in my eyes, I saw his weight setup and figured it'd be unrealistic to expect Franklin to have tested that heavy of a customization. For me, this paddle is a lightweight banger out of the box. If you need more dwell for your style of play, you'd probably do better looking at a True Foam or a new Yola. This paddle, the C45, is best suited for folks that want their spin to come from the surface rather than via core absorption, in my opinion. However, I then did notice Franklin is advertising a similar weight setup as Pickleball Studios on their website, and if they're going to promote that kind of customization, I do think the paddle should be able to handle that kind of abuse. So I do think that is something they need to figure out. Also, I do want to point out I received 2 units from Franklin, both of which currently have either loose core bits or loose glue inside of them. That doesn't affect performance, but I do know some folks are sensitive to that shaking sound, so I thought I'd point it out. That being said, Franklin told me if a customer experiences this, they will definitely take care of them. So even with all those caveats though, I actually do still recommend this paddle. I've never hit with anything like it. And if you're a hybrid lover like me, there really aren't a lot of next-gen options out there right now. Moreover, this paddle just really suits my particular style. And since I don't plan to do heavy customization, I'm not too concerned about the durability. Moreover, even the most durable paddles do have occasional issues. For example, my co-host on my podcast had an 11.624 Hirachi X Power core crush on him, and that line is considered to be one of the most durable next-gen paddles available right now. As for the C45's $200 price tag, that's definitely up there price-wise, but it seems the Gen 3 and Gen 4 tech is just going to be more expensive until we see more companies adopt it and help bring the price down. As of now, I think the C45 has checked more than enough boxes for me to recommend. And now it's time to talk giveaway. I'm super pumped to share that Franklin is letting me give one of these babies away for free. All you need to do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, leave a comment down below, and then fill out the Google form in the description so I have a way to contact you if you win. And that's it. I'll run the raffle in about a month, so be on the lookout for an email. Good luck. And that's all I've got. If you found this video helpful, please consider using promo code MatthewK on your next paddle purchase to help support the channel. I have a lot of the popular brands listed below, and my master list has even more. And I'll be sure to leave a link to Franklin's site at the very top. You can also support the channel by purchasing some of the cool pickleball gear I've been testing out by using the links and codes in the video description below. I also have a link to my favorite pickleball gear you can get on Amazon down there as well, and that's got some really cool hidden gems you wouldn't expect. And then of course, hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and slamming that notification bell all go a long way to helping me out as well. thank you so much for the support. But most importantly, I hope you get to pickle soon, and just don't forget, it's about having fun.